What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where we talk about the latest and greatest in cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers, those people of color who made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? Then we have Chris Abacon.
What's going on, everybody?
What's going on, Chris? And Daniel Acevedo.
How's it going, guys?
What's going on? So welcome to, this should be Tuesday's episode. So Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursdays, Ask a CISSP, and then Fridays, everything else, movies, books, games, all that good stuff. So definitely tune in for all the things. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're almost at 450 subs. We're trying to hit 500. So please help us do that. And then we have a newsletter. It comes out weekly. Didn't come out this past weekend because I was feeling like crap.
Let's go ahead and get into this with this article, folks. So this one's from Ars Technica, all right, by Dan Gooden. And the title of this one is New Blast Radius Attack Breaks 30-Year-Old Protocol Used in Networks Everywhere. So when I saw this one, I was like, oh, man, I'm familiar with this, right? So working in the DoD, you see this everywhere, right? Like it's something we use because of the communications, that we use, like when it comes to routing, switching, things of that nature, because it's in protocol is in pretty much all switches, routers, access points, VPNs. It's used throughout the DoD, throughout the world, really. And it manages manages client-server interactions for different things, right? So like I mentioned, VPN access, you got DSL and fiber to home connections offered by ISPs, which that's the new thing, right? Not the new thing, but everybody wants fiber, right? Because it's so fast and you get such high speeds and everything. So it's going to affect that. Wi-Fi, 802.1x authentication. These, maybe not so much 2G and 3G cellular roaming. I mean, who really uses 3G anymore, right? We on the 5s now, you know what I'm saying? If I'm on 2 and 3, I'm calling my cell phone company like, hey, don't ever put me on that again. I'm kind of a snob like that, But no, even with 5G, it's got data network name authentication is used. It's used in 5G. So this is very widely used out there, right? But again, one of the things that's been, they got an attack for it. It's been 30 years. And like when you go and you look at the history of this and everything that's gone into it for it being published, you go all the way back to 1992, really, right? But 1992, let's see, April 1st of 1992 was when it was first published, that they came up with this and started this protocol. So all the way back to that time frame. So it's a little over 30 years, really, since it's been in use. We're to the point now where, all right, we got an attack on this. So we're seeing this more and more, right? Like as time goes on, like there was a point when we started coming across these protocols and these like encryption algorithms and whatnot, where there was a point where people were just like, these are never going to be broken, right? That's what they thought when they came out with them, right? It's like IPv4, right? They're like, oh, as many IPs as you can get out of this, like you'll never need more, right? Here we are on IPv6, right? And what are we saying for IPv6? Oh, with this many, it'll never be broken, right? But you start assigning IPs to all these things around the world, right? You're assigning them to toasters and refrigerators and all these different things. It's like, yes, eventually we are going to run out, right? Like we're using them for everything. Like everything is smart nowadays to where it can't stand up. But this is gonna be a really big one. Like when I came across this one, I actually sent this to some workmates for like, hey, we're about to have some work put in for us, right? There's about to be some stuff coming out to where they're like, hey, check these things, do these things, make sure this is good. You implement these types of things. Like it's coming, right? There's no way around it, because again, this is practical use everywhere. Like I said, it's in the DoD, it's at your home. Right now, I'm using it right now because I'm online, at my home. So this one's going to be far-reaching, and it's going to be one of those things. It's going to be a few months down the line, we're going to be seeing stuff about this. I'm sure of it. This one is not going to go away quietly. But Chris, what's your thoughts on this, man?
Really, my first thoughts, like you said, we definitely use it in DoD, and I think most large enterprises use Radius, at least from the system administrator perspective, right? When we're, remoting into a server or rather a router or switch, right, through, Cisco iOS or however it may be, we utilize Radius in a means to verify identity, right? What's interesting to me is that this attack, one, the name of the attack, Blast Radius, outstanding name. Like I can't, like, man, whoever came up with that is a genius. And it sounds really cool, honestly. But really, the attack itself comes from the UDP aspect of Radius, right? User Datagram Protocol. As we all know, there's TCP and UDP. UDP is free flowing data, right? Just a stream. So chances are, YouTube, anything with streaming, right? Anything with fast data is utilizing UDP. So in the article, they've got a little diagram here for those that are listening in. But essentially, you've got, for example, you got your attacker, right? And let's say you've got a Radius client, and for the purpose of this example, let's just call it like a switch, right? Like a network switch. But this Radius client, like for example, to access privileged functions on that Radius switch. But this Radius switch reaches out to something called the Radius server, which has authentication and identification authentication data, right? So that the user of that specific Radius client can authenticate, right? But the communication from the Radius client to the Radius server is in UDP, right? And it's using something called the MD5 hash, right? And this blast radius at a high level is an attack on that MD5 hash, because Message Digest 5 is an older hashing algorithm, right? I think we're at SHA-2 now. The FIPS 140 -2 approved encryption algorithm, things like that. We've got higher standards than MD5. So that's where it's being exploited through a man-in-the-middle attack between the Radius server and the Radius client, right? What's interesting is that specifically if these Radius packets travel over the internet, it's a wrap, right? It's a wrap. But I mean, if they're traveling internally within like a network, let's say in the segmented, you've got perimeter defense and all that good stuff, for example, that we use in a DoD, there may be less of a opportunity or threat vector. But if you've got an organization that's maybe smaller, right? You've got an on-prem environment that's not necessarily as robust as the DoDs or anything in government or really a large enterprise. There's a lot of vulnerability involved, right? Especially if let's say if your Radius server is in one state and you've got multiple locations, but you're a small company, right? And you're just a system admin, there's definitely some vulnerability from that standpoint. So I think, like Shannon was saying, he sent this out to a bunch of friends. Yeah, a lot of administrators out there have a lot of work to do just to identify the data flows, right? So really identify where your data flows are, pinpoint where the potential vulnerabilities are, and, do that mapping. Get on Paint, whatever, Visio, or just on paper, draw it out and see where you can harden those, at least if you're an administrator or a company, see where you can harden your defenses. So Danny, what do you think?
Got off mute finally.
There
No,
you go.
you make a bunch of great points. First off, not to step on your thunder, but yeah, Blast Radius, that was the first thing that jumped out at me. Amazing name.
Yeah.
Sounds like
it.
a final move from a fighting game like Capcom versus Street Fighter or something, like Iron
Yeah,
Man's final
I love
move,
it.
Blast Radius. 10 points to Gryffindor, whoever came up with that name. That's just amazing. It's so good. But yeah, 2024, unencrypted traffic or non-bouncing traffic back that needs like a handshake, not good, right? That's kind of a known commodity already, that UDP has these holes in its armor from a long time. But when you want that free-flowing stream of traffic going one direction to help the connectivity, that's what you get, right? Like Shannon alluded to, it's amazing how hackers and people in this field just find ways to retool protocols with protocols that are widespread. You think that this kind of would have been discovered since Radius and UDP is so old, especially an MD5, right? These things have been around forever, but this is still widely used in a lot of networks and infrastructures, right? And the way it's exploited is very sophisticated, right? Like you were alluding to. Some key differences, right? Typical man in the middle sits on the wire and just listens to the traffic. the hacker in this case and scenario, and they talk about it, there's the understanding that they have access to the network and they're acting as an adversary in the middle. So instead of just like passively listening to the traffic, the big thing that comes from this attack is that they're able to exploit the collisions in the MD5 and elicit a response from that Radius server, even if there's no user involved at all. So they're able to take the packet that comes in, create an MD5 hash collision with the predetermined information that's coming to elicit a response from the Radius server, and then get the authentication information back to them before it's passed off, even if the Radius server is denying the traffic. It'll come back to them first as denied, and then they'll get all the authentication information that's good, and they'll pass the authentication off as it's good and it's allowed, and that's how they pivot in. So when you look at it from a network perspective, at least, if they're sitting outside the network trying to listen like a normal man in the middle, just trying to like pick at unencrypted traffic to get authentication information, that won't serve them any well, because they won't have access to that Radius server. But if they are able to laterally move into a network and then sit in and do this adversary in the middle and use this, then they have a toolkit to use to then exploit the network, right? So in certain sense, in the DoD, right, when we have hardened networks, it'd be a little bit harder, right? Because if there is an adversary already in your network, you have bigger problems already. But this is a very, very easy toolkit to use, that if they get in and this is not secured, now they can definitely compromise the whole network very, very rapidly without the sysadmins and the cyber teams really realizing, because adversary in the middle, they dodge a lot of the multi-factor authentications and the session cookies and a lot of stuff that are put in place to protect the networks. And that's why this is very, very dangerous. There's some mitigations there that's put in the article and the people that have discovered this vulnerability. So if you are working in a network as a system admin or a cyber person, that you have access to your senior leadership in this kind of capacity, I would definitely take a look at this article. It's a long read, but it's an amazing read. But those are my thoughts, Ryan. What do you think?
No, I think you guys covered it very well. Up top, please like, share, subscribe. Get us to 500, hopefully by the end of the month, and then 1,000 by the end of the year. Greatly appreciate you listening and for tuning in week after week. Traffic is great. With that out of the way, so this is the part that I like, how my my hobby kind of intersects with my my 9 to 5, because now I get to repurpose all this content, right? So it's going to go out as a video. It's going to go out as audio. I'm going to turn it into an article, and I'm going to turn that article into an email. I'm going to include these diagrams. I'm going to also give credit to the authors and all that other good stuff, right? I'm going to give all the source material.
Like you were alluding to, right? Like, this is something that it could be multi-purpose in how you distribute it out there to everybody, right? So you were talking about how it dissects with you, with your hobby, with your 9 to 5,
Right,
and
right.
yes,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, thank you for covering for me.
Yeah.
Technical issues over here, but yeah, it's it's gonna be great to repurpose this content. And again, my Monday's starting off strong, so I send this out, and then we can pontificate about it for a couple of days, and hopefully get over to the network team to see if it is a problem or not a problem, right? But it's very well written article, very thoroughly put together. I am also surprised that it's taken this long for people to figure out that this was an issue. That means that it probably was being um, uh, used to a certain extent by the bad guys for a little while now, before it came out to be this thoroughly dissected and vetted and then published. So yeah, definitely, if you have a Radius setup, it's definitely something you should be looking into to see if this impacts you. It looks like it definitely will impact you if you're a Microsoft user, or you have a Microsoft network. But there are mitigation steps that are also within the article, and we'll include it within the description of the podcast YouTube episode. And then I'm going to bake it into the article as well. So it'll be a little bit more robust article for this week. So good stuff. So now, again, you guys covered it very well. So I won't triple down, quadruple down on what you've already covered. But please continue to tune in throughout the week. Again, Monday, Tuesday, our topics. Wednesday, discussion. Thursdays, Ask a CISSP. And then Fridays, everything else. So movies, books, games, all that good stuff. You can hit me up on all the websites that go by our name, The Other Side of the Firewall, The Other Side of the FW, or Ask a CISSP. Hit me up personally at Ryrock Security Guy, pretty much on every platform. And then you can find Chris and Daniel by their names on LinkedIn. Stay safe, stay secure.